What's up, Dunwoody? Welcome back to the podcast all about Dunwoody, Georgia. My name is Matt Weber. Show is brought to you by Dr. Brett Friedman at Village Orthodontics and Discover Dunwoody. And this is a podcast where we just talk about everything Dunwoody. And so who better to have on the podcast today than Mr. Andrew Ziffer, who is the District 1 School Board member in DeKalb County. So he is the guy that gets all the complaints when everybody thinks that you're shutting schools down. So let's start there. Are you shutting down schools in Dunwoody? Because I heard that you personally are shutting down schools.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the keys there to the door and just lock the door and make sure no one gets back in. Yes, that was the news article for about 2 hours before it was actually corrected. But yes, let me just correct it.
Well, I apologize for putting out the false news. I figured if somebody wrote it, then it was probably okay.
Yeah, you would think so, but no, it was misquoted. Honestly, the whole conversation was about there's an effort inside the DeKalb County School District called SAP, which is the student assignment project, and it's a whole program talking about how what our school populations look like, because we have a huge problem in DeKalb County right now where we have a lot of schools in the north that are probably at capacity or over capacity, and then you get into the middle or the southern part of DeKalb, and we have a lot of schools that are underutilized. And so Dr. Horton has talked about multiple times how we need to and the story does have an ending, so sorry to be long-winded.
No, that's okay. Explain yourself.
Dr. Horton has talked about how we're going to, over the next few years, we're going to close down a couple dozen schools. And we're going to combine them into other schools. So we're going to take one elementary school that's maybe at a lower capacity and combine it into, two other elementary schools, or combine two elementary schools into one. So we're going to start doing that. And, as a real estate person, Matt, you get it. Like it's a lot cheaper.
It makes total sense.
It's a lot cheaper to operate one building with one administration staff than two buildings with two administration staffs. And back to that conversation in Dunwoody, Dunwoody Elementary and Austin Elementary are 900 plus student capacity schools. They operate very efficiently. They operate more efficiently than our smaller schools like Kingsley, Vanderlyn, and Chesnut, and even Hightower. Even though Hightower's in Dorville, it is still a Dunwoody feeder school. And so that conversation that night at the Dunwoody Homeowners Association was about like what makes sense for Dunwoody. And what makes sense for Dunwoody is taking one of these, eventually. There's no conversation about this. This is just a conversation about like what makes sense. Mm-hmm. The conversation is, it makes sense to like take a school like Chesnut that's 400 or 500 capacity, student capacity, and build like another 900 capacity school and possibly combine it with like Hightower, Kingsley, or Vanderlyn. And then, honestly, what do you think the best use of Vanderlyn might be one day?
It's right next to the high school.
Yeah, it's been talked about for years that somehow if the high school needs space, the space should be Vanderlyn. So anyway, that conversation turned into I'm shutting down elementary schools in Dunwoody. So,
yeah. Well, on the surface, like from what you just explained, it does make sense. And Chesnut is a tiny little school, which we love, but it is a tiny little school. And I was looking at the numbers, like you presented there, and everything is underpopulated. They're not full. But before we started, you were saying that that the Dunwoody, the stuff that's more north of DeKalb, is pretty full.
Yeah. Northern part of DeKalb, there's a heat map that too bad we can't show graphics, but there's a heat map that just shows where the capacity or schools are at capacity. And the northern section of DeKalb, we're pretty good at at capacity, over capacity, a little bit under capacity. But there's a lot of schools in like that middle band of DeKalb or southern DeKalb that are underutilized. And if there's a 500 seat or 600 seat elementary school with like 300 students. That is a very, very expensive elementary school to operate.
For sure. Yeah, that makes total sense. And so you're saying that the closures would be mostly probably those type of schools, the more southern.
Well, yeah, and underutilized schools. There are schools that are heavily utilized, and really like how do we strategically put our students in elementary schools where quite frankly, I think we would rather spend money on teachers and classrooms, reducing classroom size, than paying for the administration staff to actually maintain a building, because just to keep a building open, there's this fixed cost that you're always going to have to pay. And so if you could reduce that fixed cost and combine it into a bigger school with a larger population count, we're going to always do better as a district, and we're going to save money. And, you know,
For
when
sure.
we save money, we don't make a profit. And so where do you think that money goes? That money goes in the classroom, it goes to teachers, it goes to services, and hopefully we're serving, you know, students better.
Yeah. Yeah. You want that money to go to a good place. Okay. Well, what else you want to talk about today? So how did you, I want to talk about you just briefly. So you decided to take this job where you get called names and yelled at all of the time. And well, why do this job? Because I know you're very successful outside of being a student or a DeKalb County Schools member.
Yeah. And, I mean, so yeah, I have a real estate business, a commercial real estate business. That's gonna, you know, that's my day job. That's how I pay my bills. And so basically rent checks and buying and selling commercial property is how I make my living.
And you're taking a lot of time away to do this job. So
And it is, I'm not going to say the word distraction, but it takes time away from that business to do this. But, you know, it's really about what's important in life. I mean, look, I'm in my mid 50s. I don't look at the right. I look about 40. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you for saying that. All right. So, and you know, my wife and I have talked a lot about like what's important to us, and what's important to us is, you know, giving back to the community in some way. And so this is, you know, my way of giving back. And honestly, it just sort of happened, as silly as it sounds, it happened by accident. My wife has always had the full-time 9 to 5 job, you know, in an office, and I've always had my own business doing something with, you know, I used to run an apartment complex and doing something on my own. So I always had the flexibility. And so I literally started at Dunwoody Elementary, being a volunteer, opening up ketchup packets in the cafeteria for I'm going to tell it somebody right now, but like you know, my kid, and of all people, like we have community members. I was opening up ketchup packets for Ava Halpert in kindergarten, and Ava Halpert now was an intern, a college intern on my company now this past summer. And so you talk about full circle. And so, you know, opening up ketchup packets in the cafeteria at Dunwoody Elementary when my kid was in kindergarten, to just continuing to be a parent volunteer, I just said, you know what, I think I have something to contribute. And so eventually, you know, 20 years later, and remember I did this twice. I ran in 2020, lost, and then I ran 2024 and won. I decided to do this because it just, I think I could make an impact, and hopefully I am making an impact.
I love it. Yeah.
It's you know, you get 100 emails about how everything is, you know, being done wrong, and then you get a few that thank yous and appreciation. And honestly, those thank yous and appreciation, that's what makes it worth it. And you know, there is always this undertone, not from a lot of people, but like, you know, you're a politician, you're stealing money, you're wasting money, and that undertone honestly just gets a little old, because if anything, those are the things I'm trying to address and fix and give community confidence that your tax money is an investment. I mean, your tax money is not an expense. Your tax money is an investment in the future of, you know, our children, our community, our county, our city. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Well, DeKalb County has a history of the other things, and so I can understand why people would feel that. But I know you personally, and I know that you are here to do the right thing. And I love that you wait till your child is out of school and then you go into the schools. So you're not actually helping your family, you're helping other people's family, which,
yeah, when I ran
it's a special place in my heart.
Yeah, when the kid was in school in 2020, and then 2024 rolled around, and I had to do some soul searching of, am I really going to do this again? Because they were, you know, the past school board representative decided she wasn't going to run again, and so that they were, you know, well, who's going to run? Who's going to do it? And I said, well, my wife and I had to do a lot of soul searching, because I mean, it is what it is. It's, you know, it's a political office. It's you're in the public eye. And you know, it changes who you are inside the community. And you know, we just said, you know, well, this is what we want to do, and this is, you know, this is our expression of how we want to make a difference in life.
Yeah, love it. So another thing that's top of my list is Dunwoody is getting a stadium. Is this something that is that a thing?
Well, when you
maybe
say
not a stadium, but they're able to build enough bleachers where people can actually have Friday nights in Dunwoody.
Yeah, whenever someone says stadium, I'm picturing this like
I
mini
know.
little Mercedes-Benz stadium with a
Yeah.
roof and concession stands. Really, the project is um, impact to the community. Just to be very clear, it's very minimal. They're trying to add enough seats so they can qualify to have home games and varsity games, home games at their field. And tell you the truth, this is a community building effort. If Dunwoody as a city, and I think you kind of get this. I mean, why did you move to Dunwoody? Do you remember why you moved to Dunwoody?
I moved to Dunwoody because my wife wanted me to move to Dunwoody. So I'm maybe not the best person to ask that, but I love the community now that I'm here.
Yeah,
And it's a tight knit community. And we have to deal with, with DeKalb County schools. And where I came from, we had stadiums. Like Gwinnett has these massive stadiums that are built by the school, money raised by the school. And I'm finding out more and more where, get given grants and stuff, and that has to be shared throughout DeKalb County. So I feel like it seems like this is 10 years in the making, but at least you're here when it's happening. So I'm going to give you credit for it, Andrew.
Thank you. Buford is building a $60 million
I know.
football
That's
stadium.
ridiculous.
And there's a big uproar about that one. We're not doing that. But
that is what everybody would love here, is to have our own school system, but that's not happening. And so good for Buford. That's great.
And our school, I mean, there's somebody running for office right now who said they want their own school system. And, having your own school system is like a Herculean task. And so, my focus is just making what we have the best we can. So as far as the Dunwoody, it's not even, it's really just additional seating. It's a press box. It's some bathrooms. And, 5 times a year, Dunwoody will be able to have home football games every year. So as far as the impact to the community, the only impact to the community, everything will stay the same at the field. So whatever noise is there now will be the noise after. So, of course, the band practices when, and there's always going to be some type of noise issue because somebody's not happy about something. There's always a baby sleeping when the band's playing. I mean, that's going to always happen. And I'm sorry for that. But as far as the impact of this addition, it's going to be very minimal. So 5 times a year, there'll be some people using some extra parking spaces at a church nearby or Dunwoody Elementary or, on the street right in front of the Dunwoody High School. So the impact to the community is going to be very small. But the impact to the high school will be amazing because,
Absolutely.
I mean, athletics, there's a whole strategy around athletics, and it teaches kids how to win gracefully, how to lose powerfully, how to play, and I saw a game this past weekend, and what was amazing to me is like after the game, I was the Dunwoody St. Pius game. I don't know if you saw that or not, but it was really
Corky Kell.
Yeah, Corky Kell, and it was a great game. And at the end of the game, I guess they do this as just a matter of practice, but St. Pius and Dunwoody, they passed each other and they each shook each other's hand or gave each other a high five and said, "Good game, good game, good game." And it was a tough game. Imagine if our federal government did that inside the Senate or the House or the Georgia House or the Georgia Senate. Every single vote they'd come after and they kind of walk by each side and say, good vote, and they'd give each other a high five.
Yeah. And stick their foot out and chirp them. Yeah, I mean, and that's the biggest competition that we've got. Those are that's the biggest rivals that we have is St. Pius and Chambly. And so it was cool. And that was their first time at the Corky Kell. And the Dave Hunter part that was added on to the end now, that was Brookwood. So he was the one that built our Brookwood Stadium. And Brookwood has a really nice stadium. And it really made, throughout the week, people were dressing up for the home games. And like when homecoming comes around, like it's a big deal. And so I'm really excited about seeing that come to Dunwoody because my son is going to be at Dunwoody next year. So is there a time frame on this? Well, a couple of years from now, at least.
We just had the vote last Monday, and this was, first of all, for me, this was months in the making of talking to board members, talking to staff, and making sure the I's are dotted, the T's were crossed, and everything was as it should be. There's a wonderful volunteer at Dunwoody High School who's spearheading this, who's also involved in the construction business, and he's spearheading it. We have a very generous donor who's donating a big chunk of everything. And for me, this is there's multiple things that happen. First of all, um, um, Dunwoody is doing this financially on their own. Like they're saying this, we're going to take this on. The Dunwoody Wildcat Foundation is saying we want to do this, and they've been saying they want to do this for 10 years. And somehow all the stars aligned where we got a superintendent in line. We had a board that was, 5-2 aligned on this, and it happened. The undertone of all of this is like, if someone's going to offer the DeKalb County school system money, if someone's going to write a big check for $25 or $1 million, answer within reason should be yes and thank you.
Yeah, we need it.
And I have repeated that. That's going to be my motto from now on. If someone's offering the DeKalb County school system money, your only answer should be yes and thank you. And what Dr. Orton and I talked about, we've talked about like every high school needs something different. Some high schools need like health clinics because the kids don't have ability to get health care on their own. Some schools need mentorship programs to guide young men to be good citizens and to coach them through academics. Some schools need like language services. I mean, every school needs something different, and every school does not need the same thing. Every school needs a kind of wrapped up package of, hey, this is what's going to serve the students at this community.
Yeah.
And
Dunwoody's lucky enough to have most of that taken care of. So stadium's the next best thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to do a lot for the school and the togetherness and camaraderie. And,
I hope it'll make like football games in Dunwoody like a thing. So instead of just
had it.
Like the entire community says, oh my God, there's a Dunwoody High School football game, home game. We're all going. And the Dunwoody City Council shows up and they sing the national anthem, or I'll have Lynn Deutsch sing the national anthem. She'll do that when it opens.
Well, that's awesome. I'm really excited about that. And is that, are you allowed to say where the donors, where that money's come from? Is that
donors electing to stay kind of silent right now?
Okay.
But I'm assuming eventually it'll be public. But there's two volunteers who have signed up for big checks, and one of them is donating his time and his money, and one of them is donating his money. And
okay.
Again, my only answer to them is yes and thank you. And then I have to convince, hopefully 7 other board members that yes and thank you is the right answer.
Well, that's really what I'm looking for, because I was thinking that maybe the donor ran Wheel of Fortune now, but that's not the case.
I'm staying silent.
Okay. Looking for something fun for the whole family? Discover Dunwoody is spotlighting all of the best kid-approved and parent-friendly activities around town. From parks and playgrounds to interactive museums and seasonal events, there's always something for families to enjoy here. Their videos and posts make it easy to plan a weekend or trip everyone was going to remember. And if you've got somebody, family or friends coming to town, have them book a stay at whatsupdunwoody.com/hotels. Booking through that link helps support our podcast. And for the latest kid-friendly events, just visit whatsupdunwoody.com/events. So what else is happening in DeKalb County Schools? What else you want to talk about today, Andrew?
Well, one of the most fascinating things for me I knew this, and then when I looked at the data, and when it was in front of my face, it was hard. It was hard to digest. And as far as poverty, let me just get my little statistics up. But can you guess, of all the Metro Atlanta counties right now, can you guess the highest poverty county in Metro Atlanta?
I'm going to guess DeKalb County.
Well, no.
Oh, I thought that's where you were going. I thought you were setting me up.
No, I wasn't setting you up for it, but it is, if you look at, let's just look at free lunch. The city of Atlanta has the highest free lunch percentage, which, directly correlates to, mostly correlates to poverty. And so the city of Atlanta has roughly a 75% free lunch rate. And then Clayton County is number 2. And Clayton County is roughly at 73%. And then good old DeKalb is right there at 69%. So we depending on which statistic you're looking at, if you're looking at City of Atlanta could be considered Fulton County, but like if you put City of Atlanta and Fulton County, DeKalb is the second highest as far as poverty, or the third highest if you include the City of Atlanta. But Clayton County is it's definitely above DeKalb County. And so what does that mean? Well, this is where I just had a sigh. And if you look at the statistics and the data, free lunch rates directly correlate. I make sure I'm using the right word, to graduation rates.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
If you have a higher free lunch rate, the graduation rate at your school is lower. And what that means to me is, some of these schools that have kind of higher poverty, their graduation rates are going to be lower. And so, a question I keep on asking myself is what do you do? And then it's a matter of, you have to take that high school or that elementary school, that middle school. What are the needs? How do you make up for what is not there, that needs to be there, and improve those graduation rates, improve the experience for those students? And honestly, as idealistic as this may sound, how do you change the trajectory of a student's life when you have them for 13 years, kindergarten through 12th grade? Like, how do you create an amazing human being in those 13 years that had a different starting point in life? And that's what I want to look at. And there's this thing called 90-90-90 schools, which I've read about before. It's there's schools that are 90% minority, 90% poverty, and they're 90% plus high achievement schools. And so there's schools that are they do amazing things, and they have a very different starting point than maybe a different demographic school. And so how do we bring those programs to all of these schools, and how do we take the economic disadvantage out of education and make it all better?
Yeah, they're doing something right with the hand that they're dealt.
Yeah. And there is, first of all, do you know Dunwoody High School? I don't know if you know this, but do you know Peachtree Middle is a Title I school?
Is it?
Yeah.
I know there's a couple of the elementary schools that are too.
Yeah. And Dunwoody High School is not, as far as I know, it's not Title I, but there still is a pretty big diverse income demographic, racial demographic at Dunwoody High. So when people think Dunwoody High School is it's a wealthy Caucasian school, it's not. It's just it's got a pretty mixed income demographic. It's got a pretty mixed racial demographic. And Dunwoody High School, they're getting to they're pushing. Make sure I'm giving you the right data, but they're getting to really high graduation rates. Like Chamblee High School and Dunwoody High School are at 90% graduation level. That's pretty amazing for a school system.
Yeah, that is. And I mean, it's just so much different than the rest of your, school board representatives, I guess. You are representing those two schools, and there's a huge difference between those schools and some of the other schools. How much of your time is spent with us and then with the entire county of DeKalb?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I do Dunwoody, Brookhaven, Chamblee, and Dorville elect me, but my job is to represent all of DeKalb County. So obviously I know what's going on in Dunwoody. I mostly know what's going on in Chamblee, and I mostly know what's going on in Dorville, but my job is to represent all of the schools. And so I try to take that very seriously. And whenever a program's coming up in another school system or an area of the county, if I could add some value, I'm going to add some value. In fact, I'm helping another board member with a lease in another city right now.
Yeah, I was going to say some
and
business savvy is necessary.
I have real estate expertise. I know how to do a lease. I know all of the undertones of how do you make a lease kind of equally beneficial to both parties. And and I want all of my board members to be successful. I want them all to feel supported by me, and I want them to know that I'm there to help them. And I think that's, ultimately what's important, because um, it's not going to help Dunwoody or Chamblee if I just have this Dunwoody focused or centric um, perspective on how I'm helping DeKalb County. It's just not going to work. It's not going to actually be beneficial for Dunwoody, because then people will stop listening to me. But
yeah, I mean, having the DeKalb County school system is you helping that helps us as well. I get it.
Yeah. And if I'm supporting other board members and helping them with their projects, that helps us too. I mean, it's all about relationships. It's all about helping people. And honestly, I have a 30-day kindness program I'm doing right now. And so really it comes down to, you want to be kind to people, and,
right.
Don't be a jerk, help people, do good things, and, things happen.
Absolutely. So if anybody has questions about DeKalb County schools, or any issues with their child, how do they reach out to you?
Well, first of all, if you have an issue with your child or something inside of a school, always follow the, talk to the school first. Talk to your assistant principal, your principal. Always try to resolve it on that level, because that's going to be the first sort of level of, getting the support you need. And, if you have some questions or some curiosity, or you have something that's not working, hasn't been working for a while, always feel free to contact me. My website is andrewziffer.com. My phone number is there. And or you could contact me at my district address. It's Andrew. It's a long one, but Andrew_B_Ziffer at DeKalbSchoolsGA.org. I don't know why they put the _B.
They always make it difficult. Yeah.
They just wanted to make my email address more difficult for people to email me. But anyway, so I'm always happy to talk to people. I get a lot of email, so I apologize if I don't answer it right away. But I try to. If an email is from Dunwoody or Chamblee or Dorville or Brookhaven, I typically pay attention to it, and I usually answer it within 24 to 48 hours, and I'm happy to do so. That's my job, and I take it seriously.
Yeah, and I appreciate everything that you do. I know this is somewhat thankless job, and you are being kind by doing it. So thank you, Andrew.
Well, thank you for having me, Matt.